you are broke now, this is only the beginning. If you feel like you are living paycheck to paycheck, I want you to know in the next 5 years, if you do not change, if you do not pivot, paycheck to paycheck is not going to be a thing. You're going to be late on every single bill. You're going to be in debt up to your neck. You're going to be working 70 plus hours a week and still struggling to get by. You're going to be thinking of nothing but work every single day and still trying to figure out how you are still behind. So in today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about the shrinking of America's middle class. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for the average person that is just trying to get by? And also how to make sure that you do not end up in this situation, hopefully. So thank you guys so much for listening to The Simple Complex, where we talk about complex ideas and try to break them down and make them simplistic and digestible. So I wanted to talk about this topic because I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and she was just saying how she lives at home with her mom, and she was saying how she wants to move out. But her whole thing was just like, I don't know how to do it. Like, I literally don't. Her feeling like she literally doesn't even make enough money, even if she does budget and do all these other things, to move out of her mom's house. And she did go to school, she did graduate. She's been in her field for about 2 to 3 years, give or take. And to me, I felt like it was a no-brainer. You need to shift fields. But for her, it was a thing of just kind of like, well, this is kind of what I like to do. And like, I went to school for it. And I think a lot of people have this older mentality of like, but I did what I was supposed to do. And I think we need to start having more conversations and more diverse conversations about what does it mean now in today's economy, in today's society, to do what you are supposed to do. Because I think it was this thing of, especially for, my mom's generation, the generation up, for my mom's generation, my mom's a millennial, I think it was more so of a conversation of, you go to college and you get a college degree and then you're able to live good because you did what you were supposed to do. You get a college degree. I think the generation above my mom, which is my grandparents' generation, was more so of a you could or you don't really got to get a college degree, but as long as you work hard, right? All of my grandparents owned a home, and none of my grandparents went for higher education or went for college, but that was just a thing that was possible. And so now that's no longer being a possible thing, but I think a lot of people still have that mindset. Like, okay, well, I did what I was supposed to do, so why could I not live the life that I want to live? And I think part of it is because a lot of people are not aware of what's currently going on in America. And a lot of people don't even understand how the economy in America is changing at a drastic rate and what does that mean for them. And so earlier in the video, I talked about the middle class shrinking. I talked about it no longer really being a middle class, but I don't think people understand why that is so important. America is supposed to be its middle class. Though, yes, there are some people who make a lot of money and they're rich and all these other stuff. That's just supposed to be a small section. There also are some individuals who are struggling, who are on the poverty line. That is also supposed to be just a small section. The most Americans, when you think of an American, when you think of an average American, is supposed to be a middle class individual. This is a person who's supposed to be able to own a home. This is a person who's supposed to be able to own a vehicle and send their children off to college and be able to pay for, bills and all these other things and go on vacation 1 to 2 times a year, right? The average American can't even afford a $400 unexpected bill. The average American is starting to make the poverty line, the poor line, that group of individuals get larger and larger and larger, and the middle class is shrinking. And when I say middle class, I'm not talking about the people making 20, 30, 40, $50,000. I'm talking about the people who are essentially making six figures a lot of times too. Like, there are individuals who are making $100,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck. And when you start understanding that, because in America, when we talk about making six figures, we think of, okay, well, you should be living good, you should be living great. If those individuals are struggling to get by, just imagine how most of these individuals who aren't even making six figures are getting by. And I think there needs to be have conversations more so of how to get out of this and what does this mean for the future. First and foremost, if you are living paycheck to paycheck to get by, in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to be struggling. And I say this because the rate of increase for payment that we are getting from these jobs are not the same rate of increase that are for our basic necessities. I'm talking about groceries. I'm talking about life insurance. A lot of Americans can't even afford to have life insurance. I mean, not life insurance. Well, life insurance is good too. Health insurance. Like literally to be able to make sure if I have an accident happen, anything happens to me, I can go to the doctor and be able to know that this is paid for and be able to know this is not going to be another bill on top of all the bills that I have. Most you know what's so crazy? A lot of Americans don't even go to the doctor. They really don't because they cannot afford health insurance. And they're middle class people. Like these are a lot of times too people who went to college, people who've been working in fields for 20, 30 years, the people who work 40, 50 hours a week, the people who essentially did what they were supposed to do. And so I think we also, we need to start looking at it. Like I said, the rate of these things increasing, the rate of gas, the rate of groceries, right? I feel like every single month I see the rate of eggs go up more and more. And they think they slick because they do it like about like 15 cents every single month. But then when you start doing the math on 15 cents a month, multiply that times a year, these prices are really going up. Nonetheless, it is not matching how much we are getting paid. So the rent prices are going up. All these things are going up. The things that we need. I'm not talking about the shoes, the clothes, the bags. No, I'm talking about the basic necessities that we need are starting to go up. So much so that we cannot afford them. And so this does create a problem. The reason why I say it's going to, I think personally it's going to happen so fast is because the increase of technology that we are not thinking about. First and foremost, like I said, going back to my friend, if I don't care if you went to college or not, if you are currently working in a field and you do not see yourself pivoting in the next upcoming years, you need to change your job. You need to change your field. And I talk about this a lot on my YouTube channel, which is a separate channel. But I talk about making yourself valuable. You have to because the people who are going to not struggle as much, the people who are going to get by are the people who are going to be of value. And a big reason why I say that is because with the incoming of technology, a lot of these basic jobs are going to be done by AI. They're going to be done by robots. And we're seeing it with these strikes going on. The recent strike that just happened with the dock workers, right? A lot of them went on strike and they're like, we're not working. It happened on the East Coast. One reason was because they felt like they weren't being paid enough. But a big reason a lot of people weren't even aware of is because they said, we are not going to allow y'all to bring robots here. And the reason why it happened on the East Coast and not the West Coast is because the West Coast has already done it. The West Coast is already using robots to the point where there was nobody to go on strike. It wasn't a coincidence that it only happened on the East Coast. The West Coast had already happened. I saw a video of this guy who works at a dock somewhere, I believe in California, somewhere on the West Coast. He showed a video of the dock. He said, do you see anybody working? He said it's like me and one other guy or something like that, or like two other guys. And he was just like, this entire dock is run by robots. Mind you, on the East Coast, they have hundreds of people on one dock. So what is happening? They are taking over jobs that can be taught. If you work let me tell you right now, if you work at a job that can be taught to you and it was taught to you within 1 to 2 weeks, you work at a job that you don't really need too much prior experience to learn, boom, they coming for you first. If you work at a job where you do the same thing repetitively over and over and over again, they're coming for you first. Like, I think first and foremost, we need to acknowledge these things. I don't care if you've been working at that job for 20, 30 years. I don't care if your mom was working at that job and she bought her house working at that job no, they're coming for you. And I think we need to stop having these conversations about, oh my gosh, what are the robots going to do? Or, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with the robots? And start having more conversations of what are you going to do? You need to change. Like, we really need to start having more conversations about changing. And going back to the conversation I had with my friend, I feel like a lot of people become stuck because they're like, well, I did what I was supposed to do, but why am I not able to? Okay, well, obviously that didn't work for you. Obviously, I feel like for a lot of people in my generation, we're not seeing that is not working. I have friends who graduated college that are working 2 jobs. I just paid all this money to go to school to do what I was supposed to do, and I have to work 2 jobs to get by. That shouldn't be like that. And then there's this thing of individuals going back to school and getting more student loans and getting all this other stuff. And then that's causing another problem too. And I'm not going to get into that too much, but I think they said like 40 or 50% of individuals who go back to school and get their master's degree actually are worse off because jobs, after you've been working at a job for a certain amount of time or after you get into certain careers, they don't really pay that much difference when you have a master degree. Like once you already have your degree, don't get me wrong, certain jobs you do need your master's or PhD. I'm not saying that. But for a lot of these jobs, you don't really need to go back to school. Like there's no benefit. Like the amount of money that you make more, quote unquote, from going back to school is not enough to pay for, first and foremost, the money you just paid to go back to school. And then you would have made that money if you would have just worked there for 3 to 4 years. You know what I'm saying? The amount of time that you're essentially going back to school. Nonetheless, there is this thing I think we have in America of like, just learn more, learn more. You just go to school, go to school. But I think we need to start having a conversation of learning skills. The individuals, like I said before, robots, I want to articulate this correctly. I don't necessarily think robots are going to completely take over. I don't think it's that thing. I think the people who control the robots are going to be the ones that are taking over. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have in the upcoming future of it being a thing of, if you have the correct amount of skills to know how to use these robots and work these robots and AI and all these technological, I think that's a word. Things that are coming. Those are the individuals who are going to be able to make the money. I think I'm not trying to push it like, oh, robots are horrible and they're taking all the jobs that they're going to take a lot of them. Like, I don't know what 16-year-old is going to do when they, you know what I'm saying? There ain't going to be no jobs. Ain't nobody work when they're 16, 17, 18. But nonetheless, I think we need to start having more conversations of how are we going to be proactive about these things. I think what's going to mess up a lot of individuals, and that's why I said a lot of people in the next 3 to 5 years are literally going to become poor, are literally going to be on the poverty line, even though they went to college, even though they got a degree, even though they've been working at a job for all these decades. It's simply because they're looking at it as if, first and foremost, that they can't be replaced for some of these things. I think another thing is you're looking at it with the prior knowledge of previous generations of you doing something correctly. If something is not working for you, why do you think in 3 to 5 years, when everything's going to increase, that it's going to work out better for you? I think this is a conversation that we need to start having more and figuring out, okay, how can I make myself more valuable? And I think it's going back to the skills. The people who are going to make the most money are the people who are going to have the skills required to do some of these things. The individuals who don't really want to learn skills, the people who really have the basic knowledge, the people who have, in my opinion, standard knowledge, and that's a lot of times that a lot of these colleges give. I mean, obviously, depending on your degree, but I'm going to be completely honest about it. Like the people, and I don't want to judge nobody, but like the people who are going to school for entrepreneurship, the people who are going to school sometimes for communications, the people who, like, let's just be completely honest about some of these degrees. They're not going to be of much value unless you're really going to school to be a nurse, unless you're going to school to be a doctor, unless you're going to school to be a lawyer. That will be a little bit differently. But if we're looking at it from the lens of you doing something that a robot, a computer can do, you're wasting your time. I think we need to start focusing more on generating skills. I think we need to start focusing more on trades as well, too. College is not, traditional college is not for everybody. And I'm not saying that it should be, but I think at the same time, okay, you don't want to go to college, or learn a trade, learn something that's going to be of value to you. And though I do talk about a lot on my YouTube channel of doing things that you truly like and you truly enjoy, I think there is an aspect of life that you should have like that. Like, I think you shouldn't go into work every single day feeling like you hate it there and feeling miserable there, because work accounts for a lot of our life. And so if you have a miserable work life, you probably have a miserable life. But nonetheless, you also have a miserable life if you work in 70 hours a week and you can't pay your bills. So I think we have to look at it that again, like we do have to have a little bit of discipline and say, you know what, you might have to learn how to get specific skills in a specific field that you don't necessarily enjoy. But do you want to do that, or do you want to struggle for the rest of your life? And like I said, with this technology, it's going to make it faster. It's not going to be a thing, in my opinion, in the next 10 years it's going to change. No, I say 3 to 5. Like the way this AI technology is producing it, like even with AI, I went down this whole rabbit hole of like people working at Google and like all these like very smart, intelligent individuals. A lot of these people who spearheaded and started literally creating AI technology. And the biggest thing with it that people aren't realizing is AI uses itself to correct itself. Like for example, they had AI play chess against like the best chess player in the world, right? And AI lost. They had another AI robot play against that robot that lost, to basically kind of teach the new robot, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. The new robot played the chess player, blew her out the water. It literally teaches itself when something is not going correctly for it, when it doesn't achieve the right goal, it teaches itself how to do that. But you got to think about that. It's doing that at a millisecond. How much time does it take us to, how many times does that man have to treat you bad before you finally break up with him? How many times does that person have to disrespect you before you finally stand on business? Okay? As humans, it takes us time to really learn our faults. It takes us time. They're doing it by the minute. Soon they're going to be doing it by the seconds. With that being said, I honestly, and I'm not trying to be a fear monger person. I'm not trying to be like, oh my gosh, they're going to take over the world. Oh my gosh. But I think I want to be one of the people that starts having that conversation and really starts being realistic about it, that we need to change the way we are talking to the upcoming generations about working. We need to change the way we are looking at what does our future look like for ourselves, and really asking ourselves, am I going to be able to take care of myself? Am I going to be able to take care of my family? Am I going to be able to live life honestly with what I'm doing now? Because I think what's going to happen, in my opinion, is going to happen almost overnight. And like a lot of the grocery stores, a lot of the grocery stores I always went to, I go back 2-3 weeks later, every single line is self-checkout except one. Like, it's going to happen, it feels like almost overnight. And so what I think is going to happen, a lot of these people, like I said, going back to the beginning, who work the jobs that can be easily replicated, that work the jobs that can be easily duplicated, that work the job that a lot of these, robots, AI is going to inevitably take over, they're going to be the ones that's like, well, I've been working this job for 10 years and what am I supposed to do? They're going to be the ones who's already struggling to pay their rent, who's already living paycheck to paycheck. Most Americans cannot miss one paycheck. This is going to mess them up so bad. These are the people who are going to find out a week or two before that they're going to be laid off, or possibly go into work and find out that they're laid off. And now they're trying to find a job. And that's going to cause even more of a problem, because you got to think about it. If all the people working at the grocery stores, all the people working at fast food restaurants, all the people working at warehouses, if they all need jobs, and none of them have real skills, where are they going to work? So that, I think, also is going to cause a problem with causing them to even make less. Like, if you think you make a little bit now, you're going to make even less. You know why? Because since everybody need a job, a lot of these business owners can pay you little to nothing. Because if you don't want to work it, okay. Well, that lady down the street got 4 kids she got to feed. So you don't want to take this $10 an hour, she'll take it because she needs something. And what you're supposed to do, take it or leave it. You either gonna make $10 an hour, knowing that you got rent to pay, knowing you got car insurance, knowing you got groceries, or you gonna make nothing. Like, I think we need to start having these conversations, because I don't want it to be a thing of people waking up one day and feeling like I'm struggling to, well, a lot of people are already struggling, but I don't want it to be a thing of people wake up and feeling like, how did this happen? How did it happen that I was in a situation that now I can't even live? Like, and going back to what I said about living, the reason why I said that is because I think a lot of Americans are not living. Like, a lot of Americans can't, I think it's going to become a thing of, people talk about it all the time, right? People say they never go on vacation, never been out of the country. It's this thing, wow, you never been out of the country, it's going to become a thing of Americans never being able to go out of their state, because they're going to be working 70 plus hours a week just to get by. They can't even afford to do anything else. When I say afford, I'm talking about financially, I'm talking about mentally, I'm talking about physically. They're going to be drained in so many areas, and it's going to become a thing of, and I don't want to say it like this, but what's the point? I work all these hours and I can't even enjoy life. And then what you got to do, because there's always going to be the rich, there's always going to be the successful, and then looking at them on social media, and them on yachts, and them going on vacation. And I can't even afford to have a birthday party for my child. And this girl was posted about flying to Paris for lunch because she wanted some croissants. It's going to cause a lot of mental health problems increasing as well. And I don't know, I think to combat this, I say all that to combat this, I think first and foremost, we need to learn financial literacy. That's another thing too. A lot of people are financially illiterate. And and I'm learning it myself, because I'm not the most financial literate myself, but reading books, and I'll put some below. If you're listening to this, I'll put it in the caption below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll also put it in the caption below, of some financial books that I would recommend, right? Learning financial literacy. Because it's one thing to to get the money. But I think a lot of people don't know what to do with the money, which is why most people who win the lottery go broke within a year. You don't know how to manage that money. I think that's another thing too. And then I think once we start learning financial literacy, then that is when we start looking into, okay, what is the projected probability of the career you're in increasing? And we need to start having these conversations with ourselves. Are you in a career right now that is going to be increasing financially, decreasing financially, or going completely in stink? And then I also think we need to start having conversations with ourselves of what skills do I need to acquire? Look at potential careers that are going to be increasing, because there are some careers that are going, not everything everyone does right now is going to go completely insane. There's some careers that are going to go up. There are some careers that are going to surge. Be on the forefront of that. Literally look up specific careers, go on Indeed, look at who's hiring for those careers, and look at some of the qualifications, some of the certificates, some of the things that you could start doing now. Don't put yourself in a mental situation of being like, oh, I can't even afford to pay my rent. How am I going to pay for college? How am I going to? A lot of these things you can go online and do for free. Like a lot of these courses you can do for free. A lot of these things you can do at a discounted price. And when I say discounted price, I mean, some of these courses, yes, at a discounted price, not the traditional college price, but also a lot of these services you can start doing for other people, becoming a little bit of a freelancer. Like there's so many things that you can start doing, and you don't have to do everything at its optimal state, and you don't have to be making $100,000 next year. I think that's what messes up so many people too. Stop having this mindset that next year it has to be different. Yes, you are going to have to struggle for a bit while you are struggling. Yes, you are going to have to be struggling a little bit of figuring out how to build this skill and how to build that skill and staying up a little bit late and yes, and going into work a little bit tired. Yes, for right now you are. But my thing is, I'd rather do that than in the next 3 to 5, 10 years, literally be in a state of mentally exhausted. Like, I don't get me wrong, a lot of people are exhausted, but just being at a point of like, how do I literally get out of this? That's what I don't want. That's what I don't want. And I think that's why I want to have this conversation. I just really don't want people to be blindsided about what is going on in America. I don't want people to be blindsided about the struggles that we are going to have as Americans, that it's coming inevitably. Like, it's not something where it's like, oh, you cannot look. Like, a lot of people are ignoring it. And that's why a lot of people are going to struggle. And a lot of people are going to go through it. And a lot of people are trying to live too much in the past and do things that were correctly done in the past. No, you need to do things that are correct for the future. You need to get into careers. You need to build skills. You need to become a citizen that can be beneficial, that can be valuable for the future. Stop trying to be valuable for the past. That's what I think too many people are trying to do. You're trying to be valuable for the past. You're trying to live in the past, and we're only increasing at a crazy rate. We're only increasing at a drastic rate. So if today you are not looking into the books that you could buy, if today you're not looking up what is the future of the career that you're in, if today you're not looking up skills, like if today you're not doing anything, I promise you probably won't do it tomorrow. And which probably means in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to be worse off. And you're going to think about this video. Like, I don't even want to be one of those people that's like, I predict the future, this is going to happen. But I promise you, you're going to think about this video and you're going to be like, Shamaya told me. Shamaya told me that I should have learned a skill. Shamaya told me that, and some of these skills are going to take time. They might take you 6 months. They might take you 10 months. They might take you a year. But that's going to put you 6 months, forget it, six years, 10 years ahead. I promise you it will. Right now, it's a lot. It's going to be hard. Like I said, you're going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to be frustrated. But you have to do it for you, for your family, for your future. Like, Americans are not even having children because they can't afford them. People are not creating families. People are literally not getting into relationships because they cannot afford to date. People are not living. They're just here. You're just working a job to help somebody else live. And I'm not even team everybody get a business, everybody quit their 9 to 5. No, find what works for you. But I find that so crazy that people are literally running ragged. People are literally stressing. People are literally crying at night, struggling to have basic necessities just to support a life, for somebody to live on a yacht, for somebody to, at least if you working hard, be able to reap some of the fruits of your labor. I don't know. I'm getting kind of passionate about this, but yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about this. And moving forward for the podcast, this is what I want to start doing. I realized the whole point of this is to break down, obviously, complex topics. That's why the name of the podcast is The Simple Complex. But I realized it was becoming too much like my YouTube channel. It was me talking about confidence, talking about motivation, and like, though those things are good, if you want those things, you can go to my YouTube channel, which I will tag below, Shamaya Tiara. But I think on here, I want to talk about things like this, like actual topics, actual things that are actually going on, and kind of break them down and just, I don't know, like I said, make them digestible. That's what I think I'm gonna start doing on here. And also, I'm gonna start coming out with videos every other Saturday. I realized I put way too much on my plate. My YouTube channel, I post 3 videos a week. Here, I'm trying to post once a week. It just became too much. And on here, I want to research a little bit more, since they're going to be specific topics, be able to give you guys a little bit more of like statistics and things of that sort. So I much rather it be something that I can pour time into, instead of just like trying to come up with something every single week. So of course, please don't forget to, like the video if you're watching it on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you're watching it anywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And if you are listening to an Apple Podcast, Spotify, anything like that, if you rate it 5 stars, I would appreciate that so much. And in the show notes below, like I said, I will link my YouTube channel. I will link some book recommendations. And yeah, that's about it. But thank y'all so much, and I hope y'all have a great one. And I will see you guys not the next Saturday, but the Saturday after that.